Good morning, you two. How are you doing today?
Good morning, doing well.
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. I got to tell you what, Avatar is that one thing that really brought me closer to my grandkids because we could all sit down and talk about every episode. And so now with what you guys are doing and stuff like that, I think it's just steps getting closer to my grandchildren even more and more and more.
We'd love
It's
to hear that.
amazing.
What is it about this story that really has captured not necessarily just this nation, but around the world? Because I would love to see your numbers and stuff like that with other countries and stuff like so that because they too are tapping into it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the crazy things about the show is just finding out how far a reach it's had and getting a chance to interact with folks from everywhere. I know Dante and I have both been all the way across the world to places like Australia and New Zealand and Japan and England and across Europe. We get messages from folks, and so finding out that really great animation not only appeals to people of all ages but also people from all places has been like one of the biggest gifts of I think both of our careers, right, Dee?
No doubt. I mean, this is really a wonderful project. We both me and Jen have been actors for a long time in this career, and it's wonderful when you get to be a part of a story. It's all about being a part of great stories, and this is one of the greatest ones told in the last 20 years or so. And to see it, you just going traveling around the world and having people, different languages, different cultures that have really been impacted by the show. Really, it always blows me away how far or reach Avatar has touched and what it means to people out there.
When we talk about the Avatar verse, I mean, I always tell people that sure the metaverse is really big right now, but we were doing the Avatar verse well before this thing ever happened, and we were putting ourselves inside these storylines and wondering if we too could be just like this, or we would learn from each story. Do you do that as well? Where when you're going back and to look at these old episodes and stuff like that, you see, wow, there's a lot of culture here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about the story. It's so detailed and there's so much culture in there. It feels real. That's what the great thing about all these great stories that the creators Mike and Brian have created such a just a rich world that it feels real to us. And over the years it has become real in its own way. And so I just think that's wonderful. I mean, what nation do you subscribe to? What element do you subscribe to?
Well, I come from a Native American spirituality background, so therefore I see a lot of that crossing lines. And if you go back and you do the studying of Native
Yeah.
American spirituality, that and Asian spirituality, there's a connection there. Two different parts of the world, but there's a
Yes.
connection there.
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely. And Mike and Brian and the wonderful minds behind the show have really celebrated that and honored that and I think that is something that Dante told a story recently about talking to somebody at a Comic-Con because he and I both love doing that, and that sort of ties into why we wanted to do the podcast, where a young person came up and said, young but not that young
Hmm.
but maybe in their 20s, and said, "You don't understand, right, Dante? Like
No
you
doubt.
guys you guys kind of shaped our generation and
Yep.
the values of our generation of people who watched Avatar, which was just such a you get goosebumps."
Yeah, because there is such an energy within every character. It's not just focused in on one character at all. There's the community seems to be really big inside this storyline.
Absolutely. And redemption, right?
Yes.
Which is something we all need to be reminded. Like, it's never too late to be the person you want to be.
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? I've talked about that on iHeartRadio enough. Holy cow! It's a and of course I always have to bring up Betsy Ross. Come on now, I mean she didn't stop; she kept pushing.
There you go. There you go.
to have the opportunity to sit down with the actors, because sure, everybody can say, well, it's just my job. No, it's not. Not when you have something like it, like with Avatar and stuff like that. Those words are just they're more than words. They're messages. There's something that people are going to receive, and they're going to build their own paths with.
Yeah, it's such a unique experience. I think a lot of actors, we're so quick to move on to the next gig, and that's just how the industry is. And a lot of us don't get to go back and look back at things that we've done, especially important things. And so it's a very unique experience to go back and look at this show and really look at it episode by episode and really talk about the themes and talk about what we did and talk about what it's meant today. And it's really special.
Now, When I sit down and I talk with musicians, they always tell me a song is never done, and that's why they go in and remix and remaster their music and stuff like that. If you were directors and writers and you had the chance to go into the studio, would there be any part of these stories that you would kind of just rewrite?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm not touching it. I'm not touching anything. I think what happens, which is great, is the biggest compliment from fans is when when we do a show, which is our show, when it becomes their show, when they look at us and they tell us this is my show, and you go, then we won, because now this show is your show. We don't have to, you guys are remixing it. You guys it's impacting your lives so much. There's fan fictions being written about it, and conversations, and what if this and what if that, and also Mike and Brian get inspired by that, and so I think they're moving forward with the Avatar verse, and we're gonna be all lucky to see all the new things coming out.
Now, when you guys put the podcast and things like that together, I mean, is it I think one of the strangest things that I've had to deal with over the past 12 years is that people are still discovering things that you did 10 years ago. How do you guys react to that when you look at the numbers, you're going, really? I did that in 2006.
Time flies by.
Yeah.
It certainly does. Yeah, I mean that's something that we never know what people are going to bring up if we're having conversations about one thing. Because there's crossover in fandoms, and because there are people who are drawn. We are drawn to a certain kind of storytelling. If we're very, very lucky, we get to be a part of these things. Sometimes people say, "What drew you to Avatar or Korra?" And Dante and I always laugh and say, "Our agents got us auditions."
Right. Exactly.
It's not like someone put a script on our desk and said, "Sign here, it's yours." So, I mean, I think that's one of the really fun things about it is, I love standing next to Dante at a Comic-Con and seeing somebody waiting in line to meet him. It's like there's like 8 Rufios deep down in that line, and they're not just there because they love Hook. They're there because they love his body of work, but they love those things that you can pull from this fandom and you can pull from that fandom, and you find out that some of the lessons and some of the inspiration are coming from the same place.
And I'm sorry.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky sometimes because some of these things that we do become timeless.
Yep.
And they kind of transcend time in a lot of ways, and it's really cool to be a part of something like that.
Well, you guys have got it mastered in the way that you realize that through social media and through streaming and things like that this is a connection to real fans. I mean, when I grew up, we had album covers and inside sleeves. With the podcast and with you bringing out the real story of what's going on. I mean, you talk about a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so different. And, I think neither one of us takes that for granted. And we try to really respect that. When we said we wanted to do the podcast, just as when we go out and do Comic-Cons together, we know that we're, ambassadors of a kind. I think that's even the word that Brian Konietzko used, who is one of the creators of Avatar, that, we always want to honor the work, and we would never want to walk out into the world with that show, wearing that show or that show standing next to us, if you will, and not represent it to the best of our ability, because we are so proud of it, and we would never want to let either side down, either the fandom or the creators.
One of the great things about Comic-Cons and stuff like that all over the nation, everybody comes dressed up. To me, that is the most fascinating, fun thing about going to a Comic-Con. But when you're as close to the story as you are, and a character comes up to you, or a real live person dressed up, but they are that character, do you feel their own personal energy? Like, wow, I know why you're dressed up like this.
100%. I mean, like, again, it comes back to the ownership that the fans have of the show, of all the stuff, and it's really personal to them. It's when people dress up as characters, because they have a personal connection to these characters, and then even the cosplay now, it's become a whole new form of art, which is just amazing.
Will there be confusion with the Avatar movie coming out in December? Or, I mean, how do you guys stay true to your path and kind of get people going in the right direction?
Well, I mean, I think we're so focused on kind of where we are in the series and knowing where we're headed, because we have so many seasons to get through. And obviously, we are absolutely going to make time and space to cover Avatar Studios, because we are so excited to have new content coming out that that really keeps us busy. And I think again, because you can go back to this stuff over and over again, when we're talking about the animation side, at least, it's just it is timeless, and everything kind of flows together. And so we'll be calling back past seasons of the show we're watching now. We'll be foreshadowing. We have something called the foreshadow report on the podcast, where it's almost impossible not to talk about things that are going to happen, and
Right.
as much as things that have happened. And so it's like we stay in. I mean, it's very much like real life, right? Like, we're in the moment that we're in, but we are constantly aware of how the past, and even having the ability to see what's coming in the show, how those things all connect together, and it's one of the most fun things about it.
One of the things when you really, I listen to the show when I'm driving in the car, so therefore the conversation is between the two of you and me, and I have that kind of a relationship with you where I'll talk back to you. I mean, and one day, I mean, it's like I would love to see you guys do a live performance in different cities where we can come and see you put this together, to see the emotional connection the two of you have, and now you've got to push it through those speakers to us.
Yeah, we've done a few live performances or live podcasts at Comic Cons around the world, and it is really wonderful. We did one at San Diego Comic Con recently, and we did one at New York Comic Con, and having great guests along with us. But it's so fun to just talk to the fans out there and do the Q&As and get people's ideas and their theories on the show, and debating them, because it's all great conversation, and really, a lot of times you're like, I never thought of it that way, and that's a great part of our jobs here as podcasters now.
That's so funny that you bring up theories, because that's like an opinion. You bring up the Avitar in a conversation. People will give you their own philosophy, and you either have to be a listener, or you just grasp onto their interpretation of what they received.
Absolutely. And it's like Dante was saying, becomes their show.
Yeah.
And we're able to, hear that out. And again, that goes all the way back to the creators of the show too, Mike and Brian. They love seeing fan art, and they love hearing theories, and they love the fact that, we're growing something out of a thing that belonged to just the people who were making it, and then became everyone's. And the kind of art and stuff that comes out of the people inspired by these universes. I mean, I know that was happening when we were kids, but it just wasn't so pervasive, and it wasn't so available to everyone. And now the fact that, we can go on TikTok and see, like thousands of people's interpretations of songs from the show, or moments from the show, or cosplay from the show, like we were talking about, it's kind of mind-blowing, and it's very humbling.
It's almost like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, when it comes to the animation and the storyline. We all know that the storyline has to be what comes first, but to sit down and have a conversation with the animators, they too have got to be visionaries.
100%. I mean, it's so visually beautiful, and I really, as actors, we do it first. We tell the story just through our voices, and then to come back and to see the show and to see how we share this story and share these characters and share the performance with all these wonderful animators, it's mind-blowing.
Well, even as that actor, I mean, I know what it's like to sit inside a studio and you become that moment. You become that character. It usually takes me about a half an hour, 45 minutes after I leave the studio to become real again. Because as far as I'm concerned, I am. And that's what I love about being a voice actor.
Yeah, well, I'm the Fire Lord.
We always joke about that because, what, we haven't gotten to Korra yet. We have a little ways to go before we start getting into Korra. So I'm more on the sidelines and able to really, really love these moments where I always say, you kind of can't tell sometimes where Zuko ends and Dante begins, and vice versa, because he'll be talking about how much he loves the character of Azula. And, I'm hearing him appreciate it as Dante, but then all of a sudden there's just this kind of anger that creeps in because he still hates Azula because it's his sister.
I love her, but I hate her. I love her. I hate her, though.
I love that you said sidelines, because right away I was taken back to my martial arts. And one of the things that my master always told me was the best student is the one on the sidelines. So I'm going to ask you, Janet, you said you're on the sidelines. What are you learning?
Oh, my gosh. It is such an honor, and I do feel like, it just worked out this way, but I feel really lucky to have, I'll be able to have the first 3 seasons of the podcast be participating primarily as a fan and kind of working at it from that angle. I'm almost nervous to get to Korra because I haven't
can't
had to
wait.
confront. I know you can't. I haven't
I
had to
can't
confront my
wait.
own participation in quite the same way. And it really is a matter of, oh, it's so fun because I was a fan of the show before I got the role of Korra, and getting. And I mean, I really feel so selfish sometimes because I'm like, oh wow, I have really insinuated myself into the original show in such a sneaky way, purely out of being a fan, and now feel like so much more a part of it because I've, grown relationships with people who worked on the first series that I never got a chance to meet before, and it's so cool, and I really, I want to be here on behalf of all the fans who feel the way
Yeah.
I do. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, she's, why does she get to do that? It's like, no, I'm here for, I
Because
believe
she's
me,
the
I am
Avatar,
standing
people.
in.
Because she's the Avatar. Don't
But
question
I'm
it.
also a fan, and I'm trying to be present just the way a regular fan is, because I am a regular fan. So I always say, I'm here geeking out with everybody else who didn't get to be a part of the first series.
I'll tell you one of the things, and when you guys get through all of the episodes, which I know is going to be several years down the chapters, but here's the thing. Then you start all over from episode 1. I would love to compare the two shows together. Then find out if you feel the same way that you did
Love
the
it.
first time around.
Love that. Oh my gosh. So you've
Yeah.
just added 7 more years on, and we're not even talking about the Avatar Studio stuff we're going to be covering. I'm in.
Now I know that it's more than a podcast, so where can people go to find out more about everything that's going on? Because I want listeners to not just be listeners. I want them to realize that they're part of this.
Sure. Well, I mean, you can listen to the podcast obviously on the iHeart app. It's available also anywhere you get podcasts. We're both on social media. We have a lot of interaction with folks there, and as well as, again, at those Comic-Cons where we try to get out to as many as we can and hang with folks and do panels and get those live Q&As and those one-on-one interactions. And then, obviously, we have people who have watched the show a dozen times, and, we'll get tweets from people or messages on Instagram that are like, well, thanks a lot, guys. I just found out about the podcast, so I'm starting over from episode 1 of Avatar once again. And they're still discovering new stuff.
That's what I love about it. Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for the two of you.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you, my
much.
friend.
Excellent. Be brilliant today, you two.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you, Era.